Hello, everybody. Welcome back to the PodRats podcast and our first episode of the House of the Dragons. Very exciting. We got the full crew of the PodRats with us today. I'm Brayden. We got Christian, Hunter, Alex, and Parker. Say hello, everybody.
Hello.
Hi.
And yeah, so we're going to talk about the House of the Dragon. First, we're going to go into just a little bit of the backstory of what this season and what the show is going to be about, and then we'll get into the actual episode. So the House of the Dragon is a Game of Thrones prequel. It's set about 172 years. Is that what it said in the show? 172 years. Yeah. So House of the Dragon is based off of a prequel of Fire and Blood. I do know that at the beginning of the show, we start off a couple years before that novella, the main battles, civil war between Targaryen and Targaryen happens. So we have Miguel Sapochnik and what was the other one?
Ryan Condal
as the showrunners. Miguel Sapochnik, you guys might know, he directed episodes like Hard Home, Battle of the Bastards, The Winds of Winter, Long Night, and The Bells. The Bells. I think that's his only tarnish on his resume. But he's directed quite a bit of Game of Thrones best episodes. And George R.R. Martin is much more involved than he was in Game of Thrones for this first season, at least, of House of the Dragon. So that is a promising sign, I guess.
No D&D?
Yeah, no D&D. They're gone. They're off the face of Hollywood. They are blacklisted, never to produce anything ever again, probably.
Thank God.
Yeah. But yeah, so I guess we can get into the episode. This is episode number 1, The Heirs of the Dragon.
What is this brief, mortal life, if not the pursuit of legacy?
I, Rickon Stark.
I, Corlys Velaryon. I, Ormond Baratheon.
Promise to be faithful
To King Viserys.
and to his named heir.
Princess Rhaenyra.
Rhaenyra Targaryen.
Men would sooner put the realm to the torch than see a woman ascend the Iron Throne.
We play an ugly game. You have the determination to win it.
History does not remember blood. It remembers names.
So we'll get into the episode, The Heirs of the Dragon. So we started off with Jaehaerys, the old king, who has to decide between two heirs to the throne. We have Rhaenys, who is his granddaughter, and then Viserys, his nephew. They have a big old council to decide who should be the heir, and then ultimately Viserys is picked, mainly just because he's a male, and they don't believe a queen can rule. And then we fast forward about a decade or so, and the story picks up from there.
I really loved how they just opened the fucking show off with a dragon.
Open the fucking pits.
We have been there, actually, though. Like, we seen that in season 8.
Yeah.
They were in the dragon pit. That's where they had their council.
Yeah.
So it's like someplace we've
cool
been.
Callback.
Yeah.
It was cool.
Yeah, I feel like there's going to be a lot of callbacks.
It felt wild to me that they just throw those things in a pit.
And they stay there?
And they just stay there.
They just shove them down in there. And they're like, all right, you can hang out in this dragon pit.
Here's a tiny little cage. Have fun.
Put a collar on them.
Yeah.
I'm just glad they didn't hide them. You know what I mean? I'm glad they just, like, right off the rip, they were like, we're showing dragons. No hold back. You know what I mean?
They got a lot to show. They got 9 dragons to show.
Well, I'm ready for them.
They have a much bigger presence in this show too, though, because like each of the Targaryens have their own, you know. So like Daemon, Viserys, like it's cool that each of them have their own dragons. Whereas like in Game of Thrones, we only saw Daenerys as the mother of 3. So I thought that was an interesting take. They never described the family history of dragons.
You think all of them are going to die?
Spoilers?
Absolutely.
I don't know.
The only one that's still alive is Drogon, guys. Spoilers.
Dude, why are you spoiling the show for us right now?
Sorry. There you go, guys. Sorry. Sorry I spoiled.
It's okay. We also found out that dragons are smelly.
They do have the dragon stink. You stink of dragon. That was mentioned quite a few times in this
Quite a
episode.
bit. They would be give a little, and then they would smell the dragon.
I'm not going to keep bringing Game of Thrones up, but do you think that Daenerys...
It's kind of hard not to.
That's okay.
It's a prequel to Game of Thrones, so it's okay.
Do you think that Daenerys smelled bad?
I don't know.
I hope so.
Jon Snow didn't think so.
Hey, nobody ever talked about how she stank.
Yeah, nobody did talk about how she stank, but maybe they were too afraid to tell her that she stunk.
Maybe.
You know?
They were like, please put your stink on me.
Yeah. Because in this show, like, the people that tell her she stinks are her family.
That's true.
They get the pass to be like, hey, you smell like ass. But hey, those people in the streets say you smell like ass, then them gold cloaks coming.
Yes. So we got introduced to Matt Smith as Daemon Targaryen leading the gold cloaks through the city, causing some slaughter.
Yeah.
What'd you guys think of that?
Twitter doesn't like Matt Smith.
Really?
Twitter doesn't like Matt Smith.
They're just scared of him.
He was like my favorite part of the episode.
Well, they're just scared of his face.
Yeah.
Dude, he has an awesome face.
So
That's kind of fair.
There were some like legitimate like people griping like how did he pass is it a costume test? Mm-hmm. I think where they dress him up to see if they fit the
look
part.
good in the costume.
Yeah, and some people were like, how does he pass the costume test?
I think.
I don't think he looks bad.
It might just be because he's like the most famous actor here. You know. Like, you know what I mean? If they put like a famous actor in this, then like everyone knows them as being somebody else.
Yeah, they did very good with casting. I mean, there's some people we've seen before.
Yeah.
But Matt Smith is definitely the most famous, and he's not a actor where everyone looks at him and is like, "Oh, that's Matt Smith." Mm-hmm. It's like, "Oh, that's Doctor Who," or the guy from The Crown who plays
Or Mean
the guy
Morbius.
from The Crown. I don't remember his
Mean
name.
Morbius.
Or Mean Morbius. That one too.
I really like Matt Smith in this though.
He just has a recognizable face.
Yeah, he does.
Well, yeah, no one fucking looks like him. He looks like a fucking vampire.
Yeah, he's got a very odd looking
Exactly.
face. He'd be great in Twilight.
Well, he was great in Morbius, so
He was really great in Morbius. You know,
he was a
let's-
great vampire.
Let's segue into the Morbius show real quick.
Morbius, does he make a guest appearance in House of the Dragon?
Yep, he is canon in this universe.
Yo, those gold cloaks took so many arms.
2 carts full to be exact.
2 carts full of arms.
That's Gold Cloak brutality.
Yeah, it is.
It is.
I definitely feel like this show so far is showing us that it's going to do everything Game of Thrones did and more, as far as like showing, you know, like dismemberments and boobies.
It was pretty visceral.
They definitely didn't hold back. Although they have said that there will be less like sex scenes in this show than there will be in Game of Thrones.
They started it with like.
but yeah, after watching the first episode, you wouldn't think that. But that's what they've told everybody.
Damon was clapping cheeks
He was in fact clapping cheeks.
multiple times.
I mean,
Yeah.
when you watch a Game of Thrones universe show, you're gonna find yourself in a whorehouse with some boobies. That's just the name of the game
That is
of Thrones.
True.
nice.
At least we didn't start with like incest.
Well, you did actually.
Oh, at least we did start with incest.
That's
again.
yeah.
I mean, every character in this show is
we start off with the
subject of
Targaryens.
incest.
Well,
They're
yeah,
all
but like
incest.
they didn't force us to watch it this time.
Maybe that's why Matt Smith looks weird. Because they're all incest babies.
Alex
why he
figured
fits
it
the
out.
freaking costume.
Daenerys was
Figured
an
it
incest
out.
baby.
I really hope Matt Smith doesn't listen to this episode.
Stinky incest baby.
Speaking of stinky incest babies, what'd y'all think of Rhaenyra?
I can't believe it's
All right, yeah, that was just pretty good.
Well, Alex,
What did you think?
I really liked Rhaenyra. I think I'm gonna like her. I like her actress. Like I think she's gonna be good.
Yeah.
She got a lot of room to shine in this episode because she had, a big emotional episode right out the gate.
Yeah,
with her like spoilers.
This whole thing spoilers,
It's
man.
mom
It's
dying.
spoilers.
We can talk about spoilers for an episode.
She lost a
mommy
mother and
dying,
brother.
and her 1-day-old brother.
Rhaenyra does remind me a lot of Daenerys, though, as far as how she doesn't want to just be a trophy wife.
Yeah.
And she wants to do the things that boys do. So she's much like Daenerys in that case.
And she gets the Dracarys line. I think
does.
they're setting her up very quickly, to be this powerful woman that's looked down upon. I mean, she was literally the little cupbearer at their little ceremony shit.
Gathering.
Their little ceremony shit.
The council meeting.
Yo, I like the little balls with the circles they put in. That was kind of cool.
like present.
Yeah,
I am here.
I don't know why they need that though, because you can literally look and see if someone's there.
Yeah, it's just official when you put the little marble in the hole.
It's tradition.
That I am here.
Yeah. Although I don't know if the cupbearing thing was looked down upon. I think Viserys is just trying to get Rhaenyra around those types of that type of atmosphere,
introduce her into the environment,
politicking. Yeah, that's one thing I'm super excited about. Honestly, for House of the Dragon, we got a little bit of it with the small council scenes with the Otto Hightower and Corlys Velaryon, but just all the scheming. We didn't get it. We just got little hints of it, of what's to come.
No, you can tell there's some shit going down.
Yeah.
Though,
like Daemon
for
peeping
sure.
in on the meeting and shit when they're trash talking him.
Oh yeah.
It's very, it's very Game of Thrones and the power struggle that you can see already brewing. I put it in my show notes when I was watching the show. I'm kind of excited because I'm sure it'll happen. The little power struggle between Daemon and Ray.
Ray, you're
Ray.
our girl, Ray.
Oh yeah,
because she did jump him in the lineage of heir.
Yeah, he's not going to be happy about that.
And it's set up in the first episode that they have a pretty close relationship.
Yep.
They both speak in High Valyrian to each other and stuff. And I think they're showing us that relationship. So then later down the road, they can start this big old power struggle, and it's going to be very emotional because they're very close. I'm excited for that.
That could be something.
Mm-hmm.
Her High Valyrian was really fucking cool. When she said Dracarys,
it was different. I was
It was
expecting
different.
a Dany
The
with
accent-
Dracarys,
the
but she had
accent
some
was cool.
Yeah.
She does have different enunciation and how she's pronouncing them words.
maybe the 100-year difference in the teachings.
Yeah, the language has changed in that 100 years.
Well, wasn't it like a lost language in Game of Thrones? So maybe they didn't know the right way to use
It's
it.
true.
That is true. I forgot about that. Yeah, because it was.
Dany only knew it because she was in Essos for the majority of the show, so makes sense.
The other Targaryen parallel they brought from Game of Thrones is, remember how they talk about how they say you flip a coin with every Targaryen, and they kind of show that with Rhaenyra and Daemon in this episode too.
Yeah,
Daemon's the uncontrollable
that's true.
tyrant.
And you can tell Rhaenyra is very intelligent and thinks before she acts.
Yeah, and Viserys is much more level-headed and calm.
Yeah.
I have a feeling that Rhaenys, the queen who never was, is going to be kind of crazy. She just has that look to her that she's going to start some shit. And I don't know. I mean, she kind of has technically the past claim to the throne because she is the granddaughter of Jaehaerys, who got skipped by her cousin because he was a man. So, I mean, she might be a little salty about the Rhaenyra thing too. So
I would probably be a little upset.
She reminds me of Olenna a little bit.
Yeah, she does.
Yep. Kind of that smug, sly, I'm going to poison you at a wedding.
Well, she was just when she was making fun of the knights, that kind of thing.
Yeah.
That's true.
When they were all
Yeah, and she's
horned
also
up.
unfazed by the massacre happening in front of them.
Yeah.
She's just spitting off some lines during the massacre that's happening.
Hands of steel and balls of seed.
Yeah. Spitting some bars while that's happening.
We got some references to Game of Thrones, from the characters in the show, and I was curious. Does Game of Thrones and the way it ended, does that like hinder y'all's expectations or make you guys less excited about the show? Because I feel like I know the answer, just the way you've been talking about House of the Dragon since the first episode, but I was just wondering.
So before, like when I watched the trailer for this show, now granted, I don't really get like super excited for like movies or TV shows, and I always talk about it, but like just because I don't want to like, it makes the time go by slower when you're waiting for it. So I try not to get excited about anything. But when this show, like when I watched the trailer for it, I was like, yeah, that trailer looks good, but I'm sure it'll suck because I still had that like Game of Thrones on my mind.
No, for sure.
And yeah, literally like 10 minutes into the first episode, when it like gives you that Game of Thrones feeling, and then like after the episode last night, like when Twitter was just all Game of Thrones memes again, and all the accounts that were dead for the last 3 years are back tweeting the same shit. I'm now excited for it again. So
it's just such a fun thing, you know, like it's such a big thing. I think I saw something on Twitter that it had like 2.2 million views or whatever, and just last night, and that was like the highest opening a TV show has got all year. I mean,
yeah.
Did you see the one of the apartment building where everybody was
in
like
New York,
in sync
everyone
watching
was
Game of
watching it.
Thrones?
Yeah.
It was
That one
like
had me
20
crying.
windows, and they all just have the same fucking
Yeah.
lights going out because
Yeah.
they're all watching it at the same time.
I bet that was a watch party, and all 20 people at the watch party connected to the 30 TVs in the apartment and just started streaming.
Yeah, I'm a bit in the same boat as Hunter, where I wasn't excited until I started watching it, and then I realized how much I missed Game of Thrones.
Yeah.
And it's one of those things where season 8 physically hurt us because we wanted it to be so good.
Yep.
And then it wasn't. I know for a lot of, after season 8, I tried to rationalize in my head that it wasn't as bad as it was because I wanted to like it.
Yeah.
I think I trauma erased and like kind of forgot what like season 8 happened. So like when I watch this, I don't even think about Game of Thrones at all.
No, Game of Thrones is my favorite show I've ever watched, and that's not because of the way it ended, but because of the show itself. From season 1 to 6, and honestly parts of 7, I really liked, and then 8 was what it was. But it's still my favorite show because just the lore, the story, the world, I love it. Like I'm obsessed with it. And I feel a little bit like Alex just finished Game of Thrones again. He just rewatched it with his girlfriend. So I feel like he's given a little leftover hate from his rewatch.
All right. Yeah. I've been waiting for a moment to chime in here. I mean, there's obviously part of me that's always going to love Game of Thrones. Like, I didn't watch it twice because I hated it. Like, if it was painful, I wouldn't have been like, hey, you should watch this. Like, it is legitimately one of the best shows. It's just, after that last season, you get scared of, like, watching, you know, the same thing, right? Like, what if the first 4 episodes of House of the Dragon are good and then it falls off a cliff? But I was pleasantly surprised with this first episode. Like, after, you know, watching Game of Thrones recently, it definitely sets up that world again, and I'm ready for like seeing how because even in the beginning of this episode, they talk differently than they used to. I don't know if anybody else noticed that, but like their language was a little bit different, and it threw me off because after watching Game of Thrones so recently, like just the dialect is not the same.
They don't talk as much in riddles,
right?
As they did in Game of Thrones,
right? And so I'm excited. I think it's going to be a good change up, and I think it's good to have different directors too. But there's definitely some of that lingering, you know, anxiety about when's the ball going to drop.
I will say it is a very It is a very fast-paced show. At least the first episode was. Like comparatively to Game of Thrones, like everything was moving. Like Damon did the shit with the city guard, what's it called?
Gold cloaks.
The gold cloaks, yeah. He did the thing with the gold cloaks, and then literally they cut to a scene where they're in the council meeting talking about it. Like there is no break in the action. Like they just go from one thing to another.
I think that's part of what scared me about this episode, is that everything went so fast, and that's what happened in season 8, is that they try to cram everything into a short period of time.
Yeah. Here, I think it worked, though. I think it worked well.
this show is also going to be a lot more condensed than Game of Thrones ever was, because we don't have all of the seven kingdoms. That was called what?
Yeah, Westeros.
Yeah, but we're not going to have main characters in Winterfell or Dorne. Like, most of our main characters we've already met in this first episode.
That's true.
And most of it is going to take place in King's Landing. Like, I believe 7 out of the 9 main build cast showed up in this first episode. So everything is going to be a lot more condensed. We've already met all of the players of this game that we're going to be watching.
Yeah.
So,
I wonder if it'll feel more claustrophobic because of that.
maybe, I don't know. But yeah, it could. But to be more fast paced, I guess it makes more sense, because at the beginning of Game of Thrones, they were a lot more realistic with time and like how long it takes to get from A to B.
That's true. Yeah.
But since we're all in King's Landing, everything's happening in King's Landing, so they're going to hear about what the Gold Cloaks did the day after, and then they can talk about it because everyone's there.
That's true.
Type thing.
Yeah.
That can make sense, but also it could just be it's fast paced.
That's a big difference, though, between the shows, is everyone's in the same spot. Like,
Right.
They don't got to send ravens halfway
and
across
plus-
the world.
yeah.
In Game of Thrones, it's the 7 kingdoms, right? And in this one, it's only, I mean, you're really just here to learn about the Targaryens.
Right.
So it's okay that it's condensed. I don't have an issue with that. It's just make sure that they're not trying to make a character do something that you don't think that they would do, you know?
Whatever.
Quoting
Could you be
Only
Daenerys.
time will tell. Only time will tell on that one.
Yeah.
So
But
Well,
we'll see. I'm still really excited.
So far, I feel like Daemon could do some fuck shit. I feel like Rhaenys could do some fuck shit.
Yeah,
that's what Otto Hightower's thinking.
Yeah, dude.
Otto Hightower could do some fuck shit.
I think Otto Hightower is very much he's obviously not the Tyrion Lannister, but he's the king's hand. So like, he kind of has that role of advice and guidance. And he's really the only one, I feel like, in this show that has like any say of persuading Viserys in any way, which, I mean, is what a king's hand's supposed to do. But he's like the only character in the whole show that I feel like has any say. You know what I mean? Like, there was always the Littlefinger and the oh god, why am I forgetting the eunuch's name?
I can't remember that guy.
Spider.
The spider. What?
Varys.
Varys, yeah.
Varys from Game of Thrones. There was always those people who kind of had, they kind of had a whisper in the ears, and they could do something, but I don't know if anybody can do that besides Otto in this current like state we're in, at least after episode 1. I don't know.
I don't know. I mean, even after the Gold Cloaks did their thing, Viserys backed up Daemon.
Yeah, that's true.
So, I mean, I guess you're right, except when it comes to family.
True.
Viserys.
Bro,
Yeah.
Otto gave me Littlefinger vibes when he was telling his daughter to go
Yo.
into Viserys' chambers.
Yeah, dude. When I was talking
Wear
about the hinting of
mother's dress.
scheming, that was it right there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Lots of schemes.
He's
in
got,
episode 1.
I mean, even though he's set up as someone that cares about the king, he's got his own motives, just like everyone else.
Dude, he
King's
does have
Landing.
some little plot he's brewing up.
That scene made me so uncomfortable because he was like a good father. He was like being all sweet and shit,
he was a
and then
nice
he was
guy.
like, "All right, go cheer up my
Put
boy."
on your
Dude.
dead mother's dress.
Yeah, that was the part
Yeah,
that
what
really
is
got
that?
me was the dead mother's dress. I was
Yeah.
like, what the fuck?
Yeah. He also
Gross.
sent a note by Raven. I
Yeah.
don't know what it was.
He did.
Oh yeah,
But he did send a note out. That's
Yeah.
something to keep an eye on. Who the
Man.
fuck was he going to talk to?
Fantasy football hasn't even started, and we're already scheming.
Facts.
Sended by Raven. By
Dun-dun-dun-dun.
I think we should do a hard pivot because I think it's something Hunter wants to talk about. But we could talk about the budget for this show. It's way more than what Game of Thrones ever had at the initial seasons. Season 8 had a big budget, but it's a $200+ million budget for this entire season. So if that's about $20 million per episode, if you do the math, and we could tell as far as obviously they already showed multiple dragons in this episode with CGI, and then also with costume design and locations and stuff like that. But yeah, Hunter, you want to talk about any costumes that you really liked, man?
Yeah, dude. I sent in the Discord. You guys
Show
probably
them.
didn't see it.
If you're
Yeah.
watching on YouTube, man, you get to see the
Insert
costumes.
the costumes now. But
Yeah.
I sent it in Discord, and it was It was the armor that Damon was wearing at the jousting thingy. But there's like some like 4K like close-up shots of it, and man, it is like it's so detailed and it's like so beautiful. Like the colors and like the fabrics and stuff that are used on it and like the engraving on it, it looks so good. And then there's like another super close-up on one of Rhaenyra's dresses, and like it is so pretty. But I think I thought the Game of Thrones costumes, I mean, that's something that I used to always talk about with Game of Thrones.
Yeah, they're really good in Game of Thrones, too.
Is the costumes were really good. And I forgot about that because it's been so long. And like immediately when this show started and I was watching it, that was one of the first things I noticed is the costumes look really fucking good. So I'm happy about that. And especially when you are like dealing with people that are, you know, of like a royal descent, you don't want them to just be wearing like a dress.
Right.
Like you want them to be wearing this like beautiful fabric and that you can tell like time was put into. And I think that's something that you can really tell already. So I'm happy about that. I'm also happy that immediately, like in the first 5 minutes, the CGI looks really good in this, I think.
King's Landing looked very crispy.
Yep, it looks super good. Like that opening shot, like the dragon flying through the clouds and stuff, looked really good. CGI these days, man, you never know. It can look really fucking bad or really good.
It's all on how much time you want to put into
It's
editing.
all on how much time you got. And it looks really good so far. Also, no surprise, but the Ramin Djawadi soundtrack, man.
Dude,
Ram Djawadi, baby.
He doesn't miss.
How about that? It
He
was
really
so
doesn't.
good.
In the heat of battle, he don't miss.
It's
In the
amazing.
heat of controversy, he don't miss. You know what video I'm talking about?
Yes, I know what you're talking about. It's truly amazing, like how much music can do in like film, and it's so important. It's just something you don't realize because it like affects you subconsciously. But I mean, there's literally moments where I was like tearing up because like the music was so good and it pairs so well with like what is happening in the show, and that's something that Game of Thrones always did really well. And you know, like shows like Westworld where Ramin Djawadi's on that.
Yeah.
Same thing. Like just the music is so good and it goes so well with what's happening. And that's already happening here. So I'm really happy about that
And
too.
they teased us. Me and you pointed it out. They teased us with the Game of Thrones theme at the beginning with Rhaenyra and Allison.
They did.
It was in there. It was in there.
They
a
kept
little bit.
teasing you with it.
And at the very end, we got it.
Yeah.
Do you think? Do you guys think the opening credits will have the Game of Thrones theme, or do you think it'll have its own?
I think it'll be different.
I think it'll be like a little remix.
Yeah. I hope it has its own or some version of it.
Yeah. Like I don't want it to just be the copy and paste of Game of Thrones
I
theme.
mean, Djawadi just gives us some freaking fire, man.
Yeah.
I'm hoping some Targaryen remix on Game
Yeah.
of Thrones.
Trap remix.
For those of you who don't know, HBO announced that they will be doing an opening like credits that they didn't do this week.
Yeah, because we didn't
next
get it
week.
this week. Yeah.
Yeah.
They said that they wanted this first episode to be like a cold opening of sorts, where it's, you know, it's an opening to the show, where
Yeah.
it's establishing everything. So then like next week is, you know, the first real episode.
That was the first thing Brayden said after the show. He said this was a great setup episode.
It
Yeah,
was.
I think
very
it was.
good.
Yeah, I think it was too.
Yeah.
It gets you ready for exactly what we're going to see in the season. So.
All right. So speaking of what we're going to see, what are you guys' predictions for episode 2? What do you think we're going to go into?
I hope Sir Kristen Cole.
Yeah, I would like to
You
know
wanna
more
dive
about
into that,
him.
man, huh?
That guy's
I mean-
Giga Chad.
He did beat Damon's ass in one-on-one combat,
Yeah.
so he's got to be somebody.
Who do you think the season favorites are going to be? I know Christian's season favorite. He's been talking about him. Talking about Corlys Velaryon.
Yeah, I don't know, man.
Okay, never mind.
I do like
Good
that guy.
try,
That guy's cool.
Brayden.
He was talking about him for the first episode.
I do think it is cool though that we are getting a Velaryon in this show.
Yeah, Hightower and Velaryon. We never mentioned it, but that's the first time we've seen them in Game of Thrones.
Yeah.
Those are houses that were not in the original show.
Yeah,
Sea Snake Lord of the Tides is a pretty cool title.
Yeah.
That is
dude.
pretty sick.
Yeah.
It is. I don't know how big of an impact he's going to have in this show because he doesn't really seem like he would be a good fighter. But I mean, we haven't seen him in battle, so I don't know that. But he just seems like a a talking head more than a
he
warrior.
seems like a very wise man.
Yeah.
Like very scheming.
He might be more of like a Sir Davos type of guy.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I think
Type
Rainey
character.
swears to the pants in that relationship is what I'm saying.
She probably does.
Oh, yeah.
Like I said, she gave some Olenna vibes, man. She
Yeah.
probably
Yeah.
does run that house.
Definitely. So I don't know. I don't think that he'll end up being my favorite. I think I'm probably gonna like everyone. I'll probably end up liking Daemon the most. I think he's built up in this first episode to be very hated.
He's gonna be like a Jamie character. He's someone you
I
love,
think-
love to hate.
I think he's going to be
Yeah.
a very complex character,
He
and
is.
I think that's going to be really cool to watch.
Yep.
Yeah, it's very cool. We're jumping around, but like even the throne scene where Viserys exiles Daemon. Viserys is like, all I've ever done is back you up on things, and you wouldn't even be here if I wasn't for you. And then Daemon sees it the complete opposite way, where he's like, well, you've never had me by your side. You've always sent me away to things.
Yep.
And all he wants to do is protect his brother from himself because he thinks his brother's too weak. So like even right there, we get like a different layer of Daemon, whereas we get his side of things and how he views it, even though he kind of just seems like a dick sometimes. You know? But yeah,
He's just got emotions, man. He's an emotional guy.
he's a horned up man.
He's a horned up emotional guy.
Doesn't know where to put him.
I will say, partying for the death of the baby boy was a little much.
That was
but,
pretty fire, dude. Him roasting the 1-day-old baby. It was pretty gnarly.
Put a
King for a day.
The heir
Balon
for
on
the
blast.
King for a day. God damn.
I will say I can't predict what's going to happen because I know a lot of what's going to happen, but I don't know what will happen with Viserys. That's an unknown for me. But I have a feeling he's not going to last long. I don't think he's built for this.
Yeah. Yeah, I
That
think
cut
you're
on
right.
that pinky gonna do him in.
Oh, that it's cool because that I do know people. I don't know if they're ever going to discuss it in the show, but him getting cut on the throne is a lot of people thought, like in the show or in the story, think it's like, well, the throne's rejecting him type thing. I wonder if they'll discuss that, but that's a
pretty
cool
good.
thing to think about.
Yeah, that's pretty
That
good.
is cool.
Yeah.
We'll see. I don't know. There's going to be a lot of people who have a problem with Rhaenyra being the heir, and I think we're about to see all of the pieces to this chess game come out next week. I feel like we'll have a more definitive. This is who's going for it. You know, I feel like there'll be a more definitive
The sharks will come out.
side. Yes, there will be some sides versus just character setup. It'll be good.
I mean, you could kind of tell even when they were like pledging fealty. So a lot of them were like hesitant.
The
Yeah.
Baratheons.
The Baratheon guy
Yeah.
specifically.
Classic Baratheons.
Well, you know,
Yeah.
we all know what happens there. I was going to ask you guys, how did you feel about them referencing directly the prophecy of the Song of Ice and Fire?
I got goosebumps when they name dropped.
I had the opposite reaction.
Yeah, it felt kind of weird.
It made me feel icky because I was just like, I don't know. Just, I thought that was special to Game of Thrones. So to me, but again, we talked about this after when we discussed, and I think Master Aemon might have told Sam or like given him that, which would have made sense because he was a Targaryen. So it would have been passed down. And that's why Samwell knew. It was just like in the moment, like, I don't know. It's kind of like, I want a new series. I don't want Game of Thrones. And I like that they reference it, but I want subtle hints. I don't want it to like thrown in my face. Like, this is Game of Thrones part 2, you know?
See, I feel the opposite about it because I think that it is a prequel and it has been, like, it was talked about in Game of Thrones how this had been prophesized for hundreds of years. So I think it's cool that they're showing how it was passed down,
Yeah,
like how
kinda
that
like
prophecy
proving it.
was passed
That's
along.
how I felt too. I thought it was kind of like cool that they stressed that like this was a really big deal because this is 200 years ago and they were talking about it.
Right. It also kind of validates Game of Thrones' whole fear because the whole entire series of Game of Thrones is based around the fear of winter is coming and how it like actually ended up happening. But like it wasn't as bad as it was prophesized, but it did happen. So, I mean, it kind of validates, I feel like, that Aegon's prophecy all them years ago, you know, it's like, oh, that's how that happened.
I just thought it was a lot of information in episode 1. I wish that it was thrown in a little bit later.
Yeah.
It felt like a fourth wall break that I didn't want.
Yeah, that's also how I felt.
Felt like it was like, boom.
Yeah, I know what you mean.
Yeah.
I was like, ah.
But like everyone's gonna take it differently, so like that's the beauty of it.
I also felt like when Viserys named Rhaenyra as heir, it was like not out of love. It was just out of like spite.
It was out of no other option.
Yeah, like, and then I watched the end to the episode, and the directors were like, he did it because he realized, and he was like loving his daughter, and I was like, no.
I think he just ran out of kids.
No, he ran out of kids.
Yeah,
Yeah.
he did. He did run out of kids. So I don't know. I think he had to choose between his brother and his daughter. And he said at one point, he was like,
not choose between my brother
yeah, he says he won't choose, but
Then he chooses.
he had to choose. So
The next scene he picked.
But no, I really liked the scene down in the crypt with Balarion's dragon head standing down there. I thought it was really cool. All right, so we won't end up doing any reviews for this, ratings. I always do it. We
Reviews.
won't do ratings for each episode, but we just want you guys to know how much we love this franchise. At least 4 of us. Alex might
For
not.
now.
But
For now.
we are in love. Is that a word?
We've fallen back in love.
That's a better way to say it. So
DJ
we
got us falling in love.
we have fallen back in love with this world and are really excited to have weekly watch parties again and continue this TV show review kind of summary talk, hangout, whatever the fuck you want to call this.
Maybe podcast?
Oh, that's a good word for it.
Oh.
Specifically, PodRat.
Speaking of the PodRats, you can follow us on Twitter at @the_PodRats and on Instagram at the PodRats. You can also follow our personal letterbox. Those will be in the description as well. If you're watching on YouTube, go ahead and subscribe and enjoy, because we have been putting a lot of time into our YouTube videos, and we hope you guys like them. So we'll be back next week with episode 2 of House of the Dragon. Until then, put yourself first and take care of each other. Bye, guys.
See ya.
Bye guys.